Hi, ladies. For those of you that are not familiar with me, I am Nicolia Williams, a personal development coach, teaching women to conquer their chaos and accomplish their goals. And the main thing that I love doing is I love helping women not only take a book idea, but write it and then publish it and then prosper from their idea. And one of the things that I have noticed as I've worked with women on setting multiple different types of goals of weight loss and relationship goals and financial goals and book writing goals is I've noticed the concept of fear constantly coming up. And so today I wanted to make sure that I addressed fear, as that is something that I hear more and more and more. I don't know if you guys are aware, but we all deal with fear. We all deal with fear for various reasons. We might deal with fear because we're fearful of what other people think about us. We might deal with fear because we are fear of failure, or we might deal with fear because we might fear success. And that last one may sound kind of unique or weird, but I'll kind of explain that in a moment. So the fear of what other people think about you, simple, right? It's you set a goal and then you're wondering like, will people like this goal? Will people appreciate it? Will people respect me? So I had a client who was wanting to lose weight. And the first thing that came up in her mind is like, if I lose weight, will people think I'm too skinny? Will they think that I'm not eating or I'm starving myself? And she was so consumed with this idea of what everyone else was thinking about her that it prevented her, halted her from being able to go forward and accomplish the things that she desired to accomplish. The second fear is the fear of failure. So a lot of times I run into women who are like, all right, so I set this goal and I wanted to write a book, but then they never write down their goal because in their mind, they're like, if I write it down, then I have to face it. Then I have to realize like, oh, I didn't accomplish it. And so to them, it feels better or a little bit more safe for them to avoid writing it down because then it means that they never were really committed to the goal anyway. So then when they fail, it doesn't feel weird or it doesn't feel like a failure or it doesn't feel like they said they lost something, right? And so I run into that all the time. And that's a huge one, right? We fear what's going to happen when we fail. What are we going to think of ourselves? What are other people going to think of us when we fail or if we fail? And then the third one is the fear of success. And I never ever dealt with that until I had an accomplishment in my life. And then I was like, oh my goodness, I can relate to that personally. And when I wrote my first book, it was a huge hit, right? I was getting sales all over. I was getting features and speaking engagements. I created a course around it. All these things happened. And then it came time to write my second book because everyone's asking, when's the second one coming out? When's the next one coming out? And so when I set out to write that, all these things came up in my mind about all these reasons why I shouldn't do it. Oh, it's not going to be as successful as the first one. And I'm going to be a one-hit wonder. And nobody's going to like it. Or is it even going to be good? And is it even worth my time? Am I going to be able to write as long? And it definitely showed up in my writing process. And it halted me a lot from actually going forward and working on that second book for quite some time. And so I have dealt with that personally because you've had this level of success and then you're like, oh, am I going to be able to accomplish that again? Or am I going to be able to relate to that level of success where it makes it worthwhile? And so I really wanted to kind of touch base on all of these and just talk about concepts or reasons or strategies to why you should overcome them and how you can overcome fear. So the first thing I want you guys, if you don't take anything else away from this video, the thing that I want you to take away is that fear, listen to me very closely. Fear is very dangerous. And the reason that I tell you it is dangerous is because fear stops you dead in your tracks. You set a goal, you set out to do something, you want to try something, and then you don't do it. Just recently, I came back from a trip in Cozumel with my daughters for my birthday, celebrating my birthday. And I was so excited about this trip. And as soon as we set out on the airplane, all this fear started overwhelming me. What if the boat crashes? What if the boat, it's an iceberg like Titanic? What if one of my daughters gets too close to the edge? What if somebody slips? What if somebody pushes somebody else off? What if we get stuck in Cozumel and we can't come back over? All of these fears started surfacing in my brain. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I didn't want to go. And I remember for, for the quick time that I was there when I first landed, all I kept thinking was, all right, we landed in Miami. I should probably get a hotel and I shouldn't go forward and get on the boat. And I came up with all these reasons about why I shouldn't get on a boat. Well, luckily, I have some strategies that could push me past this fear and allowed me to push past and get on the boat with my daughters. And it was by far our best vacation yet. We snorkeled, we swam with stingrays. We went to 3 different stops. We went to different restaurants, tried different food, walked, swam, sat in a jacuzzi. I mean, we did so many things and things that we had never done before, things that were life changing, especially for my young daughters, being able to experience that. Now, had I let fear stop me, it would have been dangerous. 1, because now I'm throwing away money. 2, because now I'm not trying anything new. 3, now I'm not knowing different things that I like or exploring different opportunities. And that has happened to me several times in my life. When I think back to my book writing journey, it's frustrating for me because I had wanted to write a book for years. And I put it off because I was insecure and I was not confident in my capabilities. And I was fearful of the vulnerability to put my book baby out into the world and what people would think of me. And so because of that, I stopped and I never went forward with writing my book for several years. And when I finally wrote my book and it started my entire business. I started my entire business from my book. I got a radio show segment. I got features. I got speaking engagements. All of these things brought in extra streams of income. So all of these things happened from one little goal and one little book that I had set a goal for years ago. But I was so fearful that it stopped me. And when I think about that and I sit there and I take that in, I'm like, oh my goodness, what if I had continued to allow fear to stop me? I never would have went forward and accomplished the things that I had set out to accomplish. I never would have had my features. I never would have had my speaking engagements. I never would have had the radio show segment. I never would have had any of those things. And so when I think about that, that's when I realized that fear is actually very dangerous for us because it stops us and it prevents us from accomplishing things and reaching our full potential. And so I just want you guys to remember that if you don't remember anything else. And so there's strategies that I use to overcome fear. The first thing that I do is I always remind myself that fear is normal. We all deal with fear to some extent. But what is not normal is getting stuck and consumed in fear and allowing it to prevent you from moving forward. So first, give yourself grace and understand that fear is normal. The second step is start to rewire your thoughts. Fear begins in our mind, right? And scientists say for every positive thought, we have 5 negative thoughts. And so it takes a lot of work and a lot of reprogramming to start to think positive when you have been trained basically to think negative time and time and time again. And so a lot of times when I'm starting to deal with fear, I start to affirm myself with things that are true. You know, I am successful. I am healthy. I am fine. I am reaching the goals that I set out to reach. And I write down these affirmations so that I'm taking them in and I'm feeding them to my mind. The thing about affirmations that make them so powerful is they speak to your subconscious mind. And without you even being aware of it, they start to play out in your actions. A lot of times, another thing I like to do is I like to write down my goals, my affirmations as goals, because then that reminds me what I am working towards. And so, for example, maybe on this trip, I could say, I, Nicolia, am going to try new experiences and enjoy them. That could be an example of an affirmation I could have written down. And I did write down a few. I don't remember them off the top of my head. But I use that to help program my mind. And then what I like to do is I like to take quick moments and just sit still and visualize what will happen if I work towards what it is I work towards. So if I do lose that weight, if I do save that money, if I do go on that trip, if I do marry that person, if I do try on a new outfit, if I do go to a new place, if I do meet a new person, whatever it may be, I start to think of those things and what it will look like when it happens. A lot of times, all we do is we focus on the bad and all of the things that are going wrong instead of focusing on all the things that can go right. And so those are the strategies that I have used time and time and time again to push past the fear and get to the other side. There is an acronym for fear, and many of you have probably heard it, and it's called false evidence appearing real. And when you remind yourself of that acronym, you can remind yourself that all of the things that you're thinking about, all of the things that you're visualizing or seeing in front of you that are causing you to be fearful are false. They are false evidence. There's nothing that's been proven to be true about that except for what you make up in your mind. And when you change your mind to believe something positive about the experience or about the change or about the goal, then you are now putting yourself in a position to get to the other side to reach it. So that's what I have for you today. If you'd like to continue to connect with me, please feel free to do that at www.nicoliawilliams.com, or you can connect with me across all social media platforms at Nicolia Williams. And until next time, continue with clarity. Bye, ladies.